really nice.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool.
$6. That's the only way to go.
Yeah. Long pieces.
And I see it all over online. And it was always in stock. And then I go there.
You don't have to. Yeah, true.
If you just added a digital delay to it. And I go,
I think this is deal street.
Okay, we're going to start 1:30. And where's my translator? 通訳者いないの？どうしたんですか？それはいけません。英語できない人たちは申し訳ございませんが、日本語はできるけどやりたい話したい日本語で。だからゆっくりな英語で勘弁してください。別に新しいことはないから分からなくても聞いてみて多分価値があると思っています。I hope so. And what I said is that there's no translator here, so those of you that can't speak English or understand English will have to just put up with my slow English. I could translate in Japanese, but I don't want to, so I'm not going to. And this goes true with English speakers. You know, I'm not going to tell you anything new. Hopefully, I will remind you what you already know. And that's the best. When someone tells you something that you already know but you have forgotten, you think, oh, that person's so smart. But not really. You just agree with them. And I think what I will talk about today will be that. Now, it's ostentatiously about a piece, Sokkan, right? So does everyone have the Sokkan score? Who doesn't have the score? Okay, it's okay. You don't need the score. Okay? Because what I'm mainly talking about is how to use this piece and learn more about your breathing. So the main focus of this piece is about breathing, and not how to improve your breathing, though what we're going to try to improve on will improve your breathing. But we're not trying to improve our breathing. You get the difference? It's your motivation. So I hope you are motivated to absorb and retain and practice what we might be talking about today, not so to improve your playing, not so that you can play this piece better or learn this piece for the first time perhaps. I hope the motivation will be even better than that. Will be wider than that. What's that? Well, it's just to improve everything. Improve your life. So the piece is called Sokkan. Soku is easy. And I should write it up, but I'm not very good. My calligraphy leaves much to be desired. Soku means breath. And if those of you that have the piece, okay, I can't write that one. Do you know this? Soku? Yeah, this is the Japanese kanji, which is the Chinese characters, right? So my Chinese father says, yes, of course it's Chinese. You know, very wise. The ancient Chinese. So Soku is the combination of two characters. Okay, and each character means something. So the first one, that means yourself, you. Okay? And then the second one, kind of like that. It's very loud. Let me try it again. It's thumb, 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 thumb. That kind of looks like your first character, I hope. Let's see. I got two. I left out one. It's two of these here. That's better. Okay, soku. Soku. So this soku, this means yourself. This means this wonderful word. We don't have this in English. It's a combination of mind, body, spirit. So it's your heart. That's body, right? Your heart. So like heart. But it's also your emotional heart. Like, your emotion. I feel it in my heart. I know it by heart. It's your mind. So when you say, I'm going to learn something by heart, what does that mean? I'm going to memorize it so I never forget it. That, without the notation. That's learning something by heart that's really your mind. And there's other, this word comes in many different compounds, and on its own it just means heart. Okay, so that's soku. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Yourself, the heart of yourself, the mind, body, spirit of yourself is your breath. I mean, that alone is, we can all go home now. That's, if we could just remember that. But you guys are so smart. Breath is the first thing you do when you're born. You get the, you're breathing. The very last thing you do before you die is one last exhalation. There's one final exhalation. You're not dead until that final exhalation. So your first thing you do and the last thing you do is your breath, and it's all your life. You're breathing all your life. And you're breathing 24 hours a day all your life. So you could say, oh, well, I've been playing the Shakuhachi. You say, how long have you been playing the Shakuhachi? 7 years. Okay, so how many hours a day on average have you been playing the Shakuhachi during these 7 years? Oh, 6 hours. Hang on, there's another 12 hours, 18 hours. What happened there? Well, 6 hours a day is a lot, right? Who plays 6 hours a day? Breathing, you're doing it 24 hours a day. You're even doing it when you're asleep. Because if you don't, you die. And that's why we need Sokkan, the second word, kan. And I can't write, well, actually, if I borrow that, I don't know the one side. The one side is this, something like this. This side I know. This is an eye turned on its side. So if you turn this around, originally it was this, and then it became this, and then it became this, right? So that's an eye, like same time. And this are legs. So your eyes walking. What do you do when you see? Your eyes are walking. You're walking around. So this side, that's different. That's the wrong character. I don't forget that. But this side means to look at. To look. Doesn't mean to see. Well, it can mean to see. But with the other side, it means not just sight or seeing. It's more like the English word insight. So insight, I have a blind student, blind from death, he can't see his eyes. And I explained something, and he goes, oh yeah, I see. I said, no you don't. But of course we know what he means, right? I understand. So we use that in English too, I understand. To see something is to understand, but not always. Half the time we look and we don't even see, and then sometimes when we see, we still don't understand. And the breath is a prime example of that. We're breathing all the time, and we're not paying attention, in part because it's automatic. It has to be automatic, otherwise some of us, including me, would be so dumb we just stop breathing, and then we die. So it has to be automatic, especially when you're asleep or unconscious, you got to keep breathing. That's fair enough. But because you're breathing automatically, it's so easy to not pay attention because you don't have to. And this is why we do these breathing exercises. That's why like everyone under the sun, including myself, has breathing exercises. You can learn how to breathe. How can I teach? You get good at what you do a lot of. There's a Japanese expression, "Ski koso jouzu ni naru." Means you get good at what you enjoy doing. And what that means is you get good at what you enjoy. What you enjoy doing, you do a lot. So you could also say you get good at what you do a lot of. Even if you don't enjoy it, if you're angry all the time, you get good at being angry. So you should be experts at breathing, because that's the one thing you do the most and you do it all the time. But because it's on automatic, we don't pay attention. And Sokkan addresses that. It's saying, okay, we're going to pay attention to our breathing. Could you shut the door, please? Thank you. That's the. For those of you that haven't visited next door, you know what's next door? It's the shop. Go look at the shop, spend your money. You get those of you that want to improve your playing, all you do is just buy a better instrument.
It didn't work for me.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. This guy just, in the last session afterwards, he says, "You remember your very first 2.6 or G flute?" I said, "Which one?" They're like, "Your first one." I said, "Oh, you mean the one that was made by Kono Gyokusui the first?" "Yeah, that one." I said, "Why?" He says, I played on it recently." "Really? Who owns it now?" Because I sold it in when did I sell it? 1988. So I sold this flute in 1988, and it's been probably bought and sold, right? So I don't know who it was. Anyway, he told me, okay, that's cool. He said, "No one can make a flute as good as that." "Really?" "Yeah." I said, "Well, I'm using my 2.6 now is by Sogawa, and it's a really good flute." He said, "Yeah." This guy, must know. "Yeah, Sogawa's good, but no, he couldn't make as good as Gyokusui the first, when he was already about 80 years old, having made it since he was 20. "Really?" So I was thinking that I sold it because I didn't think it was a good flute, but it's probably me. I can't afford it. I couldn't afford to buy it back now. Okay, what are we looking at? Sokkan. So the whole point of this piece, from my perspective, is all about insight into your breath. Okay? So it's not about improving your breath. It doesn't say how to improve your breath. It's just about seeing, as in seeing with wisdom, what your breath is. What's happening to your breath. What you're doing with your breath. Okay, so it's paying attention to your breath. If you pay attention to anything, typically without trying, it improves. So yeah, of course, if you really get a good insight into the breathing, I suppose you're going to improve a bit. But the motivation is not to play this well. The motivation is to get an insight into your breathing. The motivation is not the music. The motivation is something, for me, bigger. But the neat thing about that, you improve one thing, you improve everything. So you improve your insight into your breath, you're going to play it better, and you're going to play it more musically. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, so how can a piece give you this insight into your breath? Well, first, before you start playing, you have to tell yourself, you decide, I'm going to play this piece in a way that it will give me insight into my breathing. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you say it, even if you don't believe it, every day in every way I'm getting better and better, I'm not sure, but it's more likely that you will pay attention to your breathing if you tell yourself, remind yourself, the first character means myself, that's mind, body, spirit of myself, and the second one is seeing my breath with, or seeing that mind, body, spirit, myself, with insight. To see it with insight. The aha moment. We want an aha moment with this particular way of playing this piece. So how do you do that? Okay, so here's where those of you without flutes can still practice this. And those of you with flutes, I'm not going to teach you this piece per se. I might say a few things. But if you want to learn this piece, you go learn the piece. Even if I attempted to teach you this piece in an hour and a half, I can't anyway, right? So I'm not going to try. But we'll go through it. And there's all these techniques that have nothing to do with insight into your breath. You got to work on your technique. That's just something you got to do. Okay, so when you practice technique. You don't need the technique, but it helps. Particularly, it helps playing this as music so that someone else would listen to it. Okay, so the first phrase, it goes, those of you that have it, it goes sumedi, and then the line goes to the left, daimedi, then back to sumedi, and daimedi, then go down to the ro, daimedi, and then back up to the ro. Ro. That's the first phrase. So, if you didn't know any better, or if you don't have the technique, the way that melody goes, ya da 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 da. You can at least learn the melody. You can sing it. Here we go. Ready? This is the pitch. I just chose it. But you have to choose it too. It's not this pitch. Try it. Da 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 da. Okay. Sumedi, daimedi. Again with me. I'm gonna say. We can say the names now. You don't have to. Sumedi, daimedi, sumedi, daimedi, ro, daimedi, ro. Okay, so if you have that in your mind, you're more likely to get the melody right at least. Now the ro, daimedi is problematic. Who can play ro, daimedi?
On a good day.
I'm glad you qualified that. But what I consider the first truly international World Shakuhachi Festival. There was one, the first one was in Japan, organized by my teacher Yokoyama, our teacher, many of us, 1994. But it was in Japan, it was almost all Japanese, very few, only people like myself who kind of lived there anyway, almost, and we didn't live there a lot, and not all the lineages were there, because a lot of the lineages, the teachers said, that's Yokoyama's thing, we don't want that. We don't want to make him stronger. So then the next one was in Boulder, Colorado, and that one, then a lot of the people that refused to go to the first one came. Oh, trip to Boulder, that sounds good. And it was more international. And Yokoyama asked that question. They had it, unlike here, in the beginning, the whole audience, participants were in one group. So there's, I don't know, 300 or 400 people. And each of the really top guys led a lesson for everybody. And so there's, say 250 people, like us. Who could do Romedi? And there was particularly one guy who was really, no qualifications. You know, didn't qualify, just your, and you could see the gleam in Yokoyama's eye. Poor guy. Okay, anyway, those of you that can play this, let's just play it and just kind of follow me. So the first pitch, I was close, not too bad. Here we together. Okay, do it again. I'll sing it. It's even better when I sing because you can hear it. Ready? Sumedi, daimedi, sumedi, daimedi, ro, daimedi, ro. Okay, cool. That's what it's notated. What does that have to do with insight into your breath. Well, if you were paying attention, you would have paid attention how you inhaled. And you would have paid attention, those of you that saw, that were here in the same room with Fujiwara-san, you paid attention to the kind of, maybe I don't just immediately start to exhale after I inhale. I just kind of think about it for a few moments, not a second even, but at least briefly before I exhale, which we didn't do. And I tricked you, I didn't do it either, so I'm not. You gotta pay attention to your breath in order to gain any insight in this. So where does it start? Well, it starts now. There's only now. Yeah. You can't start in the future, and you can't, the past is gone. So when do you start paying attention to your breath when you play inside? Well, right now. When you take a breath, and you're playing this as an exercise in gaining insight to your breath, I'll give you a way of breathing. And this works, it doesn't work when you're performing. It only works as an exercise. It can work for you performing. And the reason I say it doesn't is because it slows you down. And it can slow you down. You can still be slowed down. So what you do is, and I've mentioned this to some other people already, some people in the class, is you inhale through your nose. How do you learn to inhale through your nose? You just do what you always do and keep your mouth shut. But then when you start to blow, of course you got to open your mouth. So when do you open your mouth? Well, before you start to play. But if you open your mouth right at the end of your inhalation, what happens? So I want you to first, with me, we're just all going to inhale with our nose, and we're just going to let go, right? We can let go through our mouth. So through our nose, ready? Okay. This time, we're going to, just watch me, I'm going to, right at the end, I'm going to open my mouth at the tail end of my inhalation. I'm going to go. Okay? And then I'll let go. So everybody do that. So blow out, so you start on 0, on nothing. Okay, now inhale through your nose. So you open it up while you're still inhaling. And you should get a hit. You should get a rush. It should be. Why? Because suddenly the same amount of muscle, use of muscle to bring in the air, suddenly has more area for which the air to go in. So you have these small nostrils, suddenly got your mouth too. So it should be, try it again. Feel that, ready? So blow out, inhale. You feel it? This is rush. And I can see some of you, your shoulders are going, you know, I can see it. And as Fujiwara-san, there's all these ways of preparing yourself for a good breath. Posture. It's hard to sit up with these chairs, but ideally, you're not slumped. And relaxation. You got to be relaxed. And then Mr. Fujiwara, he described what's happening in the body and why and all that. Okay, and it's very useful to know what your body's about. But with breathing, a really good way to know that you're relaxed is to, what's your favorite smell? My favorite smell is gardenias. Have you smelled gardenias? They grow only in hot places. So I grow up in Hawaii, so I like gardenias in Hawaii. Another good smell, again, from Hawaii is mangoes. I like some certain smell of mangoes. Some people, coffee. Not drinking, but the brewing or the roasting of coffee. You go into a coffee shop. Those of you that eat meat, and I still, having not eaten meat for a number of decades, the smell of bacon is pretty cool. Or another smell is you're in a tent, you're out camping, and it's kind of cool. So you're in that tent, and you zip it all up, so you're in there because it's cold. And all night long you're in there. And of course, you're not suffocating, but it gets a bit fuggy in a tent after, sleeping for 8 hours. And especially because you're not in the city, you're not camping in the city, you're camping somewhere, and you open the tent and you step outside in that fresh air, that first, what I want you to do is imagine your favorite smell. I've given you a number of options there. You can choose your own if you can't think of that. I want you to shut your eyes. If you can, sit up a bit straight, but I want you to just imagine smelling your favorite smell. Okay, so you think of it, now imagine you're smelling it. And then just let it go. So you can, again, just like I was saying, if you make the title Sokkan, insight into one's breath, as a self-fulfilling prophecy, you can almost do that by acting too. So if I'm up here and I want you to smell something, I want you to pretend you're smelling something, and I show you how to do it, and I just go, okay, well, this is how you do it. Not very convincing, is it? But if I go, ironically, a really good relaxed inhalation are people that's come off the plane from Australia, 15-hour flight, come off, rush outside, get through customs, get through immigration, get your bags, finally get outside, and finally have a cigarette after 18. But they do that. Usually you see smokers, they just smoke, right? But you watch these guys, they don't do that. They never rush. They go. And then they don't just blow it out. When they just normally do it, they do. But not that first one. They go, and they inhale, and they go. And they blow smoke rings sometimes. It's a beautiful breath. If you could just get rid of the tobacco, the carcinogens, in the breath, brilliant. Yeah, so you don't have in Australia, you have a break, smoking break, it's called a smoko. And in the past, people were allowed smokos. Midday, mid-morning, you go up downstairs and have a smoko. But I wish we could have a breatho. Everyone, let's take a breathing break, right? The whole point is you got to relax, and you don't need to know anything. You guys are expert breathers already. You've been doing it all your life. You just put yourself in the right context. So here is Sokkan, and it's not like, oh God, I don't know how to play this, and I got to play this right, and it's going to be horrible, and I'm going to make a mistake. No. Oh, I love this piece. It's beautiful, and here we go. I'm going to play this. So already, before you even start the first note, you're gaining insight into your breathing because you're paying attention. And you're paying attention at something that you enjoy. And even if you don't, you pretend you enjoy, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Let's try that. Okay? So, think about it. So you're going to breathe first through your nose of the, roses, essential oil, rose oil. Oh, that's something else too. You breathe. Okay, here we go. Breathe in that. Oh, it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Open your mouth and then play. Sumeri, Daimeri, Okay, cool. However, you can do something more with this piece if you have the technique. And again, Fujiwara-san was mentioning technique, and he was calling it muraiki, and the translator, it's a real hard job to translate, on the fly like that. I think she had some notes, but still, that's difficult. Particularly, it's easier to translate into your mother tongue. It's harder to translate from your mother tongue into your received language, which she was doing because she was Japanese. But she didn't translate muraiki. She just called it muraiki. Okay, well, that doesn't help, does it? If you know the technique, it might. What does muraiki mean?
Thrashing breath.
Yeah, that's one way. So what does that mean? Sadomasochist? I'm going to thrash you with my breath. Ooh.
Breath explosion.
Okay, breath explosion. That implies loud. But Fujiwara-san was talking about all sorts of so-called muraiki. He was saying there's many different kinds. Some are soft. So muraiki is breathiness. That's the translation. It's not a literal translation, but that's what it means. It means putting sound other than the tone of your flute into the tone of your flute, which we call breathiness. So what's breathiness? What's the difference between breathiness? You know, that's breathiness. That's breathiness. I'm breathing. So breathiness implies sound with your breath. It's that breathiness. So we all know what it means, though it's, have you thought of that? So when people say muraiki, see in certain lineages, maybe not Tozan lineage, but with my lineage, there was a thing called sasabuki, which is lovely. Sasa is bamboo grass. And sasabuki has nothing to do with Kimpuryu, the Nesasa komibuki. Sasabuki is a gentle breeze, gently blowing the bamboo grass. It's the exact opposite of the gale force blowing through a big bamboo forest, right? And you can, in other words, you can use that sound to color your air, your breath, so that you can see it with your ears. And that is a direct translation of somebody. I don't know if it's Dogen or, the fifth patriarch or something, but there's a quote in Zen literature that you've got to see with your ears and hear with your eyes. That's cool. That's totally, what does that mean? And again, it's your motivation. When you try to do something impossible, you still get better. So I can't see with my ears, but my blind guy can. He can hear like like bats. You call it, it echoes back. So he can hear, he can kind of get vague ideas of what shapes are around him. There's this guy in Australia, he's blind from birth, and he's teaching young kids using clicks. And he says, okay, there's a bush over there. I think that's a car. Okay, we go this way, and he's clicking, and he teaches these, blind people. So see with your ears your breath. That's pretty cool because you can't even see your breath anyway, right? So my idea is, okay, I want to hear my breath, and that's why I color it with breathiness. But also my image is, what do you call those? Aerodynamic guys, the guys that test the cars or airplanes, and they put them in wind tunnels, which is something that just makes a lot of breath, isn't it? It's just a wind. But if you put a model airplane in a wind tunnel and you just blow air on it, that doesn't work, does it? So what do? They put smoke so that you can see the air. And you can see how it goes over the wings and so forth, right? So we are putting sound in our sound. We're putting a breathiness sound so that we can see our breath with our ears. So instead of just going, and this is easy for those of you that are always breathy. Instead of that, let's try. Still quiet. Nothing loud. It's not murai. Iki. It's not thrashing breath. Here we go. Ready? Ah, did you remember? Yeah, that too. You got to inhale through your nose first, then your mouth. But even before that, you got to think about it. I tell again. I tend to tell my students, don't come to these classes during workshops because you just hear me repeating myself. High diver. Okay, I'm in the Olympics. There's the board. Well, it's not a board, it's the end of the thing. It's the platform. I don't just go walk out. What do?
Visualize.
I go like this. I say, I'll face you. There's the end. Okay, and I'm kind of ready to go, and it's my turn, so I go out. And then I dive, right? What are they doing? What are the Olympic guys doing while they're standing out there? They're going, oh, damn, I forgot to deposit that. They are diving in their mind. They're doing it in their mind. Okay? Our brain works by predicting. Our brain doesn't, when the baseball players or cricket players, they're hitting these balls that go 120 kilometers an hour. They don't see it. They predict where it's going to be, having done it so many times. So the more you do it, the better you are at predicting. That's one reason why you practice. But you can, if you have the time, you can predict what you're going to do by telling your brain, I'm going to do this. So, okay, I'm going to breathe through my nose, and then at the very end, I'm going to open my mouth, and then I'm going to start to play softly, and it's that pitch, but I'm going to give it a bit of breathiness. So all that can roll through your brain, and the more you do it, the less time it'll take. You can go through that much faster than I can talk. So here we go. So predict what you're going to do first. Okay, now inhale through your nose and then your mouth. And here we go, breathy. Okay, then we can talk about pitch. For example, when the tsumeri drops down, it's the same pitch as the row, but that's not why we're here. That's not why I'm here today. If you're here because of that, well, I'm sorry, you're going to have to learn this piece from somebody else at another time. But I can tell you that tsumeri, daimeri, that note is the same pitch as when you go ro meri, ro, that pitch again. And that's why we sing it. Da, 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 da. It's that pitch, every time that pitch. Okay? But not today. You just know that. Maybe you can't do it today, but you know it, right? And then the next phrase is the same. Ro, ro, ro. It drops down back to the ro daimeri. Okay, why didn't they just write a ro daimeri? Well, that's more graphic. And notice the line gets bigger. So you want to play the ro daimeri louder. That's like saying, I've got this old tractor. Okay, but you got to go here, you got to go really fast in your tractor. My tractor doesn't go fast. Its top speed is walking pace. So you go as loud as you can. Okay, you can go slower than 5 kilometers an hour, but you can't go faster than 5 kilometers an hour, but you can still go slower than the slowest. So when you drop down, you want to ideally play it louder. Ah! What's this piece about? Insight in the breath, right? Paying attention to your breath. Here we go. There's another opportunity. How do you get louder? What causes loudness in your throat? Sorry?
More breath.
Yeah, more breath, more volume. Volume of air equals volume of sound. Direct correlation. The more volume of air you put in. But meri, daimeri, ro daimeri, if I do that, someone will ask me, I'll go ro. I can't play ro daimeri with the same volume of air as ro. Well, that's okay. Don't. Get your ro daimeri and play it as loud as you can. I can't even get it. Well, try. But I can't get it. That's okay. And when you're trying to play with as much air as you can, still get that meri sound, which will not be the same amount of air that you use with your ro. In other words, you have to measure out your breathing. There's not just loud, soft. There's not just lots and not. There's all these degrees of loudness. So that ro daimeri is louder than you usually play it. So let's try it. Here we go. We're playing that second phrase. And I want you to consciously get the Rodai-medi, but then try to get it as loud as you can. And make sure the pitch is right, because you don't want to be too sharp. You understand? Yeah, here we go. Second phrase. Do you remember what you do before you breathe? Yeah, okay. And then, so we're going to think about it. We're going to breathe through first our nose and then our mouth, blah, 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 blah. Here we go. Ideally, the last Rodai-medi should be louder than the first two Rodai-medis. Was it? It's hard to tell in this group. But when you're on your own, you want that medi notes. And again, Fujiwara-san touched on this. The volume of air not only determines volume of sound, but it can determine the tone color. And when you play a Rodai-medi loudly, you bring out its mediness. And what is, for me, the mediness, it's not just the pitch. And I'm sure you know that, the lower you bend the note down, the more nasally it gets. Like an oak. So if I go, that's good medi. So if you're not getting that, you're not playing loudly enough, because you get that with your air, with the way you breathe, the way you exhale. And I'm talking about little teeny tiny subtle things that you probably can't do. So how do you do that? Well, you find someone that can teach you how to do that. But at least now you know that that's what that's about. That Rodai-medi is not just there because it musically works, it does, but because it gives me yet another opportunity to pay attention to my breath. And I'm forgetting. I'm constantly forgetting. And I guarantee you, if I some way that I could gauge this, I would bet you $1,000 to $1. And that is, if I win, I get 1,000. If I win, I get $1. If I lose, I give you 1,000. That you will forget that you're breathing within 5 minutes after you walk through this door today. And as if you don't forget, I'll give you $1,000. If you do forget, I only get $1. I still get $1 from everybody. Yeah, I'll be much richer than not that much, but I will be. Because we forget, and that's good. We can't remember everything, but we can try. Okay, let's try to remember your breathing once every hour. Can you do that? Set your timer. My watch has a timer. It vibrates, so no one will hear it. And so I'll set it for an hour, and every hour I just have to think about my breath. That's all. I don't change it. Of course, when you think about your breath, you do, but that's another issue. I just have to think about it. I have to see it. I have to try to gain an insight into it. To gain an insight to your breath is to gain an insight into you, into the heart of you. That's what breath is, into your mind, body, spirit, into you. Very important. Okay, next phrase. Next column, normal. Today, hey, re, 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 re. There's nothing new there, really. I could say, well, there's nothing there. It's just you play it normally. No. What's normal? Normal is not paying attention. So you don't play it normally. You play it paying attention. So you can play something normally, but paying attention to it makes it not normal. That's like our lives. You don't pay attention to what you're doing. Could be anything. You do pay attention to the exact same thing, it's different. Okay. Let's play column 2. It's too many today. So first phrase, I'll sing it, you play it. Ready? Sumeri re. I didn't even give you a chance. Here we go. Blah, 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 blah. Predict. Done it? Okay, inhale. Sumeri re. Okay, so I could talk a lot about how to do that. There's certain things that aren't written there, but that's not what we're here for. What we're here for is to pay attention to the breathing. Now, we play two phrases in a row. Did you remember to do all that stuff that we do in the beginning? Did you breathe through your mouth, nose first, and then your mouth in between the two phrases? No, probably not. How many times do I have to remind you? It doesn't take time. I didn't give you any time, but I can just go. I can inhale through my nose and in my mouth as quickly as I can inhale through my mouth. And it doesn't, I don't make a sound. I can make a sound, but I don't have to. There's no excuse. Other than you're breathing all your life since you were born, and probably 80% of the time you're not paying attention. So you get good at what you do a lot of, and you do a lot of unconscious breathing. So you're really good at breathing without thinking about it. Okay, so I'm telling you to, overcome, 29 years of your life. You're all about 29, right? Okay, so, but remember, this piece, I want to show you. I can show you. I was going to show you. I've got pieces that I've played forever and a day. I know them, and if I showed you my score, I still have in red, breathe. I have to remind myself. And if I have to remind myself, I can probably assume that you have to remind yourself. So right on there, breathe. Remind yourself, breathe. That's why the watch, breathe. You don't have to change anything. I'm breathing already. So it's really watch your breath. Pay attention to your breath. See your breath. Why is that? You know why. Okay, next phrase, however, now we're getting the nitty gritty. Next three phrases, really, if we get through these, we have, it started at 1:30, we finish at 2:45? 2:45, cool. The next three phrases are real breathy. And 4 and 5, columns 4 and 5 are super breathy. They're the breathiest in the piece. But 3 is kind of midway breathy. And circle oo lends itself to breathiness. So I can go re. Try that. Re, get it clean and then make it breathy. Clean, breathy. Ready? Lends itself to that breathiness. And if you listen to recordings, even Hon Shirabe, next time you listen to Hon Shirabe, listen to the second phrase in the piece. Do they put breathiness on that? 9 times out of 10 they will. So instead of they'll go. Breathiness, because it's almost impossible not to make it breathy. So we're going to make this breathy. We're going to add the breathiness like we did with column 1. Okay, let's try this. Both phrases. First phrase we add the breathiness on the oscillation in circle of an oo. Kind of disappears on the re, and then the tsure is not breathy, but then notice what it drops down to. It drops down to a tsu pitch. It doesn't tell you that. And it gets louder. So you have an opportunity to play a midi note loudly again. A midi note loudly again. Oh, pay attention. It's a midi note loudly again. Red flag, midi note, loud. Ah, breathy. Ah, pay attention. Right? You can't play a midi note loudly. But you can try. Right? Okay, so here we go. Ah, here we go. Blah, 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 blah. So two. So the melody goes sumeri re meri da da da. Lovely chromatic. When people say shakuhachi honkyoku or pentatonic, only 5 tones, they don't know what they're talking about. It starts on a E flat, G, what is that? F. E flat, G, F. Da da da. Yeah, okay. Almost chromatic, not quite. Here we go. Tsure meri. I'll play it. Wait, first I'll play it. Did you hear I got breathy down there? You can shade the 2 if you want. Ready? Here you go. Ready? Okay. Now the next 2 phrases are the ones that everyone wants to learn. And it's the loudest, so it goes. And if I'm playing it right, I should feel dizzy now. Hyperventilate. Okay? Everyone, sit up straight. Okay? Take a big breath. Inhale through your mouth. And blow it out. Take a big breath. Blow it out. Take a big breath. Blow it out. One more time. Take a big breath. Blow it out. Okay, you feeling now?
Yes.
That's how you should feel after doing column 4 and 5. Slightly dizzy. Right? Because you're going. That's what that is. You breathe one more time than it's written. So that is a circle ray to re, and then there's another circle ray to re, and you take another breath that's not in there. And then you have to do the rest in the same breath. Again, that's technique that we don't have time for. But what I want you to do first is walk before you run. Crawl before you walk. I want you to be able to play this phrase, this column, or the first 2 phrases. It's actually 3 because I'm taking an extra breath. Softly. Okay, so this is what I want to hear. Put breath in. I want you to go. See, here I got a bit louder, relatively speaking, but I'm playing softly. I don't want you to go. That's eventually. I'm not even doing it very good today. Okay, so column 4, all the rays before you get to the last phrase, but softly and breathy. And we're taking 2 breaths. Here we go, together. So think about it. Inhale through your nose, in your mouth. Okay, here we go. So you're going to run out of breath when you use a lot of air. What's the difference between running out of breath quickly when you use a lot of air and running out of breath less quickly, so longer, you can hold your sustained note longer, but softer. Okay, so in other words, I've got one phrase that's shorter than the other, but it's loud. I can't play it because I ran out of breath. I got another phrase that's much longer, but it's softer, and I still ran out of breath. What's the difference? None. You still run out of breath. Right? How many times have you run out of breath in your Shakuhachi career?
Always.
Will you give me $1 for each time you do that? No way. I don't have that money. I don't have enough. I won't even earn enough in my lifetime to do that. Okay, so why? Because you're not paying attention. Partly that, but mainly because you're not. Sometimes it's because your embrasure's not developed. It's mainly because you're just not paying attention to your breath. And that includes how you use the breath. It's not just, oh, I forgot to breathe. I forgot to inhale. Yeah, you did, right? Okay, so remember. But also, it's how you breathe out as well. And a lot of us use our air in order to get a sound that we should be using our embouchure to get that sound. In other words, we're using, brute force instead of concentrated delicacy or, finesse. Right? So I want to press that button. It's a stone ball button, so I could press the button like that, or I could just do that. Right? And we're doing that and using up all of our breath. Whenever we start to lose our sound, inevitably we start to blow more, because that's what we learned worked when we were beginners. But we're no longer beginners. So you got to take off your training wheels from your bicycle. We're using our breath as training wheels. Okay? When you lose a sound in the middle, doesn't work, adjust up here. Don't blow more. Yeah, the blowing more will work, but then you'll run out of breath. Without training wheels, yeah, you're going to fall down a few times. But that's okay. So adjust using your embouchure, using these muscles. And that may mean that you won't ever get the sound back. If I blow more, I'll get at least sound. I may run out of breath, there's sound, no, but you got to just suck it up and try it. Get rid of the training wheels, fall off until you learn. So, okay, yeah, the first 5, 10, 100 times, you lose a sound, but you still got air. Well, don't increase the air. Try to find the sound again with your embouchure. And maybe at the 101st time, you'll get it. And meanwhile, you're getting stronger, and you're using that strength. You're controlling the strength of these muscles around there. That's your goal. And so you got to pay attention to your breath, in other words. And that doesn't just mean, it also means what we do when we're running out of money before the next paycheck. We pay attention to our money when we're running out. Well, don't spend it so much in the beginning. Yeah, don't wait till you're running out. It's too late. Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. Pay attention. We're going to inhale like we do. I want you to play a ray. And then when you finish, I want you to just put your flute down and wait. And that way I can tell who's finished. Okay. You get that? We're going to do a long tone ray. And not too soft, not too loud, just the most comfortable. And you want to go as long as you can. The whole point of this is to play it as long as you can. We're paying attention to our breath, to our exhalation, but we're seeing with our ears by adding this ray component. Okay, so ready? We're going to inhale through our nose, and then our mouth, ray. So you two gonna do it again. Everybody else, I want you. Okay, they played a lot longer than everybody else, right? They played a lot longer than some people. Okay, you can do that too, and we're gonna prove it immediately, so easily. I want you to put your foot here. Okay, there's no way you're gonna make a sound, but I want you to pretend to make a sound. So watch this. I'm gonna do that. And that little bit of air that you're blowing out will be enough to make your flute happen, guaranteed. You may not be able to do it now, but you will. I used to have I'd carry a feather, and I would go, and it's the same. I can get sound and barely move a feather. So, even though this won't work, perhaps, guaranteed by just kind of, just let it out. Okay, let it out softly. You don't have to try. You'll still be exhaling when these two run out of breath. prove me wrong. Here we go. Okay, so everyone else is here. You two are going to play. I mean, you don't need to, you can hear it. You don't need to watch them. You can hear. When there's no more sound, they've stopped, right? Okay, so remember, you're going to inhale through mouth, nose, and then our mouth. Okay, blow. Actually, they're pretty long. Pretty good. Did some of you go as long as that? Barely, yeah. I was running out too.
Still no.
Sorry?
Still no. Just
Oh, you were still going. Show off. Okay, so even if you kind of ran out, not quite got there, you were close, weren't you? So that proves that it's just here. It's not your breath. You're running out of breath because you're not spending your breath correctly. You're running out of breath because you're not aware of your breath. You don't have any insight into your breath. You're using your breath. You're throwing away your breath on, candy and toys. Right? You want to use your breath when you need to use your breath. And I just did that because we could do the same thing with 4, but some of you can't play Merikari, loud, Muraiki, all that. That's technique. We don't need, that's not the time. It's about the breath. But this is the one. Okay, the 5 is the same. It's even harder because you go from ro daimeri to ro. And again, you're out of breath, and yet they want you to play it as loud as you can. It's a ro daimeri, you can anyway. It's an impossible phrase, but you try. You can always get better at this. I personally thought I played that very badly. But another part of me says, yeah, well, that would work in concert because I can fool most people most of the time. But you can always improve it, in other words. And I want you to train your ears to not only be aware of your breath, but to be aware of other people's breaths. When you're watching a concert, you're not just there as a shakuhachi player. This may spoil the rest of your life, spoil going and enjoying someone playing the shakuhachi. However, try to breathe with them. Try to gain insight into their breathing. Try to get to know how they're doing it. It's amazing how, in fact, you'll hear the piece all that better. Try to do stuff that's impossible and you still gain from it. Let's try 5. And when you want to play ro daimeri, you just get it. If you can get the pitch, that's great. If you can get it loudly, that's even better. But you get louder as you go up, and then you get the ro, and then the ro gets even louder still. See and we do that again, and then there's a breath that's not there, and then we do another big breath, and we do it again and again and again and again, and then we hold it, and then we get loud and drop down. So there's only 2 pitches. But boy, this is a hard phrase. Here we go, ready? This, by the way, that's the pitch, that's the ro daimeri. It's an octave below the re. Here we go, 5. And again. Okay, wait. Okay, listen. Ro. What was that, 3 seconds? 4 maybe less? If you played that phrase, which some of you did, longer than that, it's because you're not playing it loudly enough. You really want to blow so hard that you're birthday candle stuff. Right? By the way, again, you guys are experts. You watch someone, or do you remember the last time you had a birthday that you had candles to blow out? Okay, and it's there. Okay, make a wish. You make a wish. So you make a wish. You don't just, right? You pay attention. Even 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, everybody, 90-year-olds. They pay attention.
Especially when you're 90.
Especially when you're united, yeah. So I had a long time ago. Oh, those were the days when I turned 50, and Patricia, my wife, and my students had this surprise birthday party for me, and that in itself, because it was in a student's house and it was not just my students that came; it was friends. It had nothing to do with Shakuhachi. Had never been there. There's absolutely no connection with this place. Right? And I was there because I had forgot my watch. So I had they had a perfect excuse because I forgot my watch. I had to get my watch. So I went over there to get my watch. And the owner of the house, my student, my lady, says, oh, I want you to come back in the back. Something I'll show you. So I walk in the back, and there's all these people. They're there, why are you here? And that happens. So already, I'm 60 years old in 1 second, and having lost 10 years of my life from fright. But then they bring this birthday cake with 50 candles. And they know about my breathing exercises, breathing with birthday candles. Okay, good. So the students I'll show them. Yeah. Ever the competitor, right? So when I get there, yeah, I'm gonna, and then they put trick candles on. I'll teach you. Show off. Oh, dear me. So get dizzy. You got to get dizzy. You should be dizzy by the end of this and blow it out louder, even if there's no sound. Like you're blowing out the first 2 times at least, you're blowing out your birthday candles. And you're only 4, right? So you don't have that many. You don't have to. Okay, here we go. Ready? And again. Even three big breaths. Yeah. That'll make you pay attention. It's great. Then the next phrase, it doesn't tell you, but that ro daimeri is a proper muraiki. Thrashing breath. Loud and breathy. So that quick breathing that we were doing for the first 3 times continues. And then it goes soft. It's super loud to soft. How do you do that? How do you go from loud to soft quickly? Your breath. Yeah, your breath. You pay attention to your breath. A lot of breath, a little bit of breath. So this forces you to, again, pay attention. We're going from loud to soft. Loud, soft. Here we go. So we're going to do that again. You guys were still blowing too long. Row. Row. That fast. Okay? And then you got to keep going, and at the end, keep going, and then down, and then another, bro. Okay, that's that phrase. Here we go. Breathe. Again. Breathe. So there's more ways to pay attention to your breath in this piece. And the next phrase is another interesting one. It's a koro and it gets loud, but it's not just that. You want what is called a multiphonic. You want to get this more than one tone, and you can do that on most flutes, not every flute. So you sometimes can blame your flute, very rarely. Usually it's not the flute. One of my students said that should be on your gravestone, your epitaph. It's It's not the flute. Usually it isn't. This maybe, but probably not. If I blow at a certain amount of air pressure, and there's a certain amount of breathing, I'll get, instead of just, I'll get, can you hear the high sound, low sound? Try it. One and five ball. 2, 3, 4 down. 1 and 5 ball. Okay. It's the ko of koro koro. But if I go, no, that's just the high sound. I don't want that. That's too much. That's not enough. I'm not doing anything. Nothing to see. It's my breath. Right? Listen again. Maybe I can do it. Sometimes if you really try, you can get 3 sounds. So there's this note. And there's this note. And then there's the high one. Now, I'm not going to get, but I'm trying. So the point is, even if I can't, I'm trying to get 3 tones because there are 3 there. So at the very least, try to get 2. Do it again. It's hard when there's a group, but try. Okay. Right. So that phrase should have that. It should sound, listen, this is 6. Hear it? Not super loud. If I do, definitely too loud. Or even, that's too loud because I got the middle one. There's the middle and the high one. Ideally get all 3, but maybe not. And then the rest is just what's written. Koro, 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 koro. How you play that is again not the topic of this one. We're looking at the bits where we can gain insight into our breath. And at the very end of that phrase, it goes re, and then it's written chumeri. So you go to re chumeri. So with a 1.8, it's a C to B natural. Re meri is a B flat. But you don't have to remember that. You just go down, middle down, not all the way down. And then you drop down to an oo. And remember, the oo can be breathy. So I could just play it. Right? That's what's written. Da, 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 dum. Try it. Just those 4 notes, 4 pitches. Ready? It starts on the re. Ready? Re, me, oo, down. Again. Re, me, oo, down. Okay, but instead of that, what did I say about oohs? What are oohs good for? Touch of breathiness. Yeah. It's like certain things, you just add a little turmeric to it. Okay, so instead of, I'm going to go. Did you hear my breathiness? Everybody, try that yourself. Ready? How many remember to breathe through their nose first and then breathe through their mouth? Good, good.
Way good.
Okay, come on, guys. I'm so disappointed.
That doesn't start till we leave the door.
Yeah, okay, paying attention to your breath. But breathing through your mouth and then your nose every single time you play your shakuhachi until you make it a habit. And then once you make it a habit, you can turn it off. So it's not a habit. It's as easy as automatic, but it's not automatic. You're paying attention. You're consciously doing something that is as easy as a habit. You can switch it on and off. And that's the difference between really being aware of yourself and your breath. If you do it automatically, I mean, so you know the Irish guys, you know, jigs and reels. And then just go at a mile a minute, and they can do that after 5 pints of Guinness. Right? So you could say that, yeah, on the one hand they're really good, but it's all automatic. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Don't do it all. You know, pay attention. Do it. Don't. Okay, we're time's up. Let's do this one more time. Ready? One more time. Inhale through your nose, through your mouth. Okay, some of you have to go. Any questions? If you have to go, please do so. But if you have any questions first. I mean, not first. If you gotta go, you gotta go. Yes.
Can you please teach how to do this breathiness? How to make it with shoulder? How to make it?
It's you right now. It's just getting in the way of your. Just your tongue. Yeah. Any other questions? That's a technique. See, that's a technique. That's not really this class. Any other questions? Yes.
Thoughts about the Sokkan breathing technique?
Meisoku.
Sokkan science it.
What's his name? What's his name? The book.
Yeah, I just started looking at it. I'm just curious.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.